Welcome to a brand new NFL episode of the Bold Take Podcast. Happy Super Bowl week, everyone. I'm Austin Wader. You know the man next to me, the Austin Hill. And we got a fun one for you, Super Bowl week. A Super Bowl doubleheader is what we have for you. We have one episode here coming out on this day, and then we're going to have one later this week, our official Super Bowl preview of the matchup that we do every single year. Nonetheless, you're probably wondering, wow, they haven't posted in like 2 weeks. What the heck have they been doing? Well, in case y'all have lived under a rock, there was this insane winter storm that came through the South. Um, really put a damper on things as we kind of went to our safe spots for the storms, and there was really no true way to record, so we took it as an off week, and I think it's safe to say we both could have used it. So happy to be back with you, Austin.
Yeah, me too. Like you said, used it is a good way to put it because man, I was not I don't know, maybe the best and worst time to get as sick as you've ever been in your entire life.
Right.
But yeah, I'm feeling back. I'm glad that we're back recording and we're close to the Super Bowl. And so that's something to be excited about for sure.
Yes, it is. But like I talked about this episode, we're going to dive into it. First, we'll dive into head coaching hires, and then we will make our award picks as the NFL honors is this Thursday. So let's dive into our last head coaching hire that we knew as of then, whenever we last recorded, involved Mike McDaniel. So the next one, the hire, just a few coordinator hires that I'm going to talk about. Nothing too specific there. The Falcons hiring Tommy Rees as their OC, former Browns OC. Nothing really to talk about there. He's following Kevin Stefanski. We'll see if that works for him. We know Tommy Rees. Obviously, you know him better than I do. But yeah, interesting hire for the Falcons. We'll see if it goes there. Bobby Slowick, former Texans OC, is going to be the new OC in Miami for Jeff Hafley there. So two quick hires I want to talk about there. Interesting coordinator hires for both sides. I don't know if they're going to work out, but these two coaches, new spots, looking to add some fresh coordinators here.
Yeah, I like Tommy Rees. He was good at Notre Dame, was a quality OC. Um, and following Stefanski, that I mean, to me, that shows that they've got some kind of relationship there for him to want to bring him and for Tommy Rees to want to go. Again, we kind of talk about liking Stefanski headed to Atlanta with a lot of the pieces that they've got on the offense side of the ball, bring his OC over. And I like what this, I feel like Atlanta's offense took some big strides forward this season. Looked like we really saw the best out of uh, Bijan Robinson, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts this season, and had some good flashes from Michael Penix before he was hurt. So it feels like when you're starting to finally get these guys really firing on all cylinders, to go out and really embrace on the offensive side looks good to me. And then down in Miami, I like Bobby Slowick. I know that he kind of got a bad rap with the way things kind of went down in Houston this year. But look, I'm going to be honest. I've come out and said it. I don't think what happened this year on the offensive side of the ball is CJ Stroud's fault. I don't think it's Bobby Slowick's fault. I really think it comes down to just this kind of ignorance of the offensive line that's really
Yeah.
been a culmination of the last 2 years for the Houston Texans, but this year it looked really bad because CJ Stroud really couldn't play offense. And you look at it, Stephon Diggs left in the offseason. Tank Dell didn't come back from injury this year. So talk about an already, weakened offensive line and then kind of a weakened receiving core coming into this season. It ended up just being kind of, a glaring error at how bad this offensive line was, with really no ability to create there for CJ Stroud. So I like the hire down in Miami. Uh, to me, it doesn't really say much though, because I think Slowick could be good, but who knows who on the Dolphins on that offensive side of the ball is going to be here. I mean, on the whole team, really, it's going to
Right.
be here come start of the season next year. So he's a young coordinator. I think that gives you plenty of confidence to go with a young head coach. Probably going to be a young team. Tells me you're maybe going to let them take some lumps and learn
Mm,
together and maybe grow
yeah.
together. So I think that's the only thing you can maybe be excited about for Miami, is that it looks like they're going to take this rebuild serious, and kind of commit to a young team to try and compete in a few years.
Yeah, I think so as well. We'll see what they are down the line. Like I said, a lot could have a change in Miami between now and whenever they actually get to call in plays, whenever they get their roster set. One final intriguing one: Cowboys have a new DC. They are hiring former Eagles passing game coordinator and DB's coach Christian Parker is their new defensive coordinator. And look, Philly's played a bend don't break defense as opposed to Matt Eberflus's bend and break defense. So I consider this an exciting move for the Cowboys. Maybe this could be something down the line, especially with them being just 34 years old. This could be someone you can build on for the whole future for the Cowboys, maybe.
Yeah, he's no Matt Eberflus in my book, so we'll see how it works out. But
That's completely fair.
um, and looking at the secondary in Philly, Cooper DeJean, Blankenship, Quinyon Mitchell, and then you think of a few years prior, Darius Slay, James Bradbury,
Hmm.
Malcolm Jenkins, even a couple years ago. When you kind of throw some of these names out here and you talk about really how elite this secondary's been, still was good last year, even with a lot of the struggles this team had. And obviously, you look at the way they played in the Super Bowl 2 years or a year ago, and that says all it needs to on that front. So yeah, I think this is an awesome kind of big hire in the division too. I think that maybe he's going to bring a little bit of edge to it as well for the Cowboys. So I think it's the right idea, and I think it's kind of if you're looking at a guy, a positions coach on the Eagles to get, I think secondaries coach is the right guy to look at. So yeah, I think this is a move in the right direction. Obviously, we'll just have to see how it works out.
Yeah, we'll see what the Cowboys do drafting defensively. But let's move to our first head coaching hire we're going to dive into, and it's one that I absolutely hate because it's such a good hire. Baltimore Ravens hiring Jesse Minter, former Chargers DC, as their new head coach. Minter, of course, for those of you who don't know, he coached with the Ravens from 2017 to 2020. Then he went over with Jim to the Chargers. Now he's back as the Ravens head coach. And I'll be honest with you, whenever we'll dive into his assistants in a minute, about as home run of a hire as you can have in this cycle. This is the guy I wanted the Steelers to hire, and instead he's going to their arch rivals. So I'm a little bitter, not going to lie, I'm a little bitter. But to me, this is the best hire of the entire cycle. This is probably the closest thing to a Mike McDonald hire we're going to see this entire cycle, at least to me.
Yeah, I think this is a big, huge kind of home run move here. Uh, look, let's look at the Chargers this season. Offense kind of up and down, had its moments, but Herbert banged up, the offensive line banged up. But what was the consistent that got this team into the playoffs, that had this team fighting till the very end of the game against the now AFC champ New England Patriots? And that's the defense. They
Mm-hmm.
kept the pressure on. This has been a really good defense. And, we thought things might change up. Letting go of Joey Bosa this offseason, thought maybe they might take a step back. And they really didn't. They looked really, really good. And obviously, Jesse Minter had a lot to do with that. So, yeah, I think this is a big hire for the Ravens. Well, I'm still not crazy about the Harbaugh firing.
Right.
But, this is basically kind of still keeping it in the family. You talk about between the two Harbaughs, they're
Yeah.
always passing coordinators and players back and forth. And even when they get rid of John Harbaugh, they just bring back a guy who coached under him just a few years ago and was just coaching under his brother. So yeah, I think this is going to be a really good move for the Chargers or for the Ravens. And for a defense that was banged up, beaten up, and kind of struggled last year, yeah, this is going to kind of give them that charge and maybe give them that defensive edge back that they were really missing last year.
Yeah, I think so. Especially when you look at that Chargers defense, like you talk about, lost some pieces in the offseason. We thought, are they going to drop any or what are they going to look like? And statistically, they actually got better. So that
Mhm.
tells you exactly how it was there. Do I really have to talk about this next hire in the process? I guess I don't have a choice.
Yeah, we have to.
Yeah, I have to. So for those of you who don't know what I'm referring to was, I was minding my business on a Saturday morning, snowed in, just minding my own business, thinking about, man, Chris Shula, Brian Flores, who are the Steelers going to hire? And the answer was neither one of them. They decided to hire Mike McCarthy as their new head coach. I've kind of forgotten about it over the last couple of days, but now it's back in my head. It's making me mad. So give me your thoughts first. Give me your thoughts first.
Well, I thought, man, wait up. I mean, just absolutely slip and trip and fall down at the finish line for the Pittsburgh Steelers. If Steelers fans knew this was going to be the hire, they would have said bring back Tom. I mean, I
Yeah.
messaged you as soon as I saw the news. I said, "Is it time to bring back Mike Tomlin already?" Because this is just, I mean, talk about having no feel and no depth for your fan base whatsoever. Let's just run it back out there. It's basically what they said. Hey, you know, the thing you've been tired of doing with Mike Tomlin for the last decade, just running it back. Yeah, we're actually just going to do that again. That's what this hire says to me. Get
Mhm.
one of Aaron Rodgers' buddies, probably the only coach in the NFL willing to coach Aaron Rodgers
Yeah.
at this point is Mike McCarthy. Um, I mean, this is a lunatic hire to me. He was bad with the Cowboys. I know they're going to point to some of those double-digit win seasons, and I just don't care. What did Mike McCarthy? His last call as a head coach is that QB draw uh, from Dak Prescott. I just want everybody to remember that. In the playoffs, Dak Prescott QB draw against the 49ers.
I mean, there's
That
that one. There's the bads. There's the directs. And there's Ezekiel Elliott playing
yeah.
center against the Niners, and then his last year, them missing the playoffs. I mean, it was a rough. There was rough moments, very rough.
So this is confusing. I thought Mike McCarthy was at the point where I was like, you got the Super Bowl ring. Your last few years haven't been great. Maybe, you're done coaching. Time to be an analyst. And that's what he was doing. I don't get this move from the Steelers' perspective. I don't know what Mike McCarthy does well. I certainly don't know what he does better than Chris Shula. I don't know what he does better than Brian Flores. I'm tired of coming on here and saying this. I don't know what some of these coaches do better than Brian Flores.
Yeah.
Man, I am tired of talking about Brian Flores as like one of the best options and just nothing happening. Um, I guess he's paying the price for sticking it to the NFL, but I just don't even understand. I don't get it. Personally, to me, I think this is a bad move. I don't, again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I do not know why the Steelers would do this.
Yeah.
I don't know why you wouldn't just bring back Mike Tomlin.
Yeah.
I know, technically, the way it came out is that Tomlin like is like, he stepped down in the locker room immediately after the game under no pressure. I would be convincing him to come back. If this is what I thought was my best
Hmm.
option, I would ask Mike Tomlin to come back. That's my personal perspective. I don't understand this move. It makes no sense to me. Mike McCarthy should not be coaching NFL teams anymore.
I remember whenever I'm just gonna do like full blown story mode here. I just remember whenever the whole thing with Mike Tomlin, he announced he was stepping down, and Tomlin basically is gifting the team in a classy way, saying, "I'm going to give you an opportunity to get a fresh start with fresh ideas in the building. Going to give you that chance." And Art Rooney the second, man, if the other Rooney members who, God bless their souls, if they were here today, they would probably beat up this Art Rooney. They would probably beat him up for
I
his
agree.
competence because it gives you an opportunity with get a young coach with fresh ideas, a modern coach in the building, and Art Rooney sells for another old school floor raiser who's just he's not going to take you somewhere amazing, but he's not going to do anything that's going to make you terrible. So I mean, I guess the Steelers organization is just never going to change their freaking ways. Apparently, it's not that Mike McCarthy's a bad coach, but he's not a coach that's going to make anything different for the Steelers going forward. You know, and again, why would you keep tabs on Chris Shula if you weren't going to interview him? Because here's the thing: they hired him before they could do in-person interviews with Chris Shula and Nathan Shieldhouse, who were very much in the race for the job. The only three people they interviewed for the job in person: Brian Flores, Anthony Weaver, and Mike McCarthy. When they interviewed Anthony Weaver and Brian Flores, that completed the Rooney Rule and told them they could legally hire a coach. So to me, and then what makes it worse to me is because that Rooney Rule thing was obviously created for a reason, with the whole thing there when it came to coaching. And they just use it as a check mark in Pittsburgh. Pretty much that tells me with those three interviews, they were planning to hire McCarthy all along. And you want to know why?
I agree.
Because he's from Pittsburgh. Let's get the hometown hire. You know, the owner of this team does not care about competing for Super Bowls at all. And if I'm fans, and as all Steeler fans were, should be extremely loud about this. Nothing's gonna happen though. He's already official. He's gonna be hired, so I have to settle with it. And again, I just think about it. The Steelers hires in Mike history: Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin. What all three hires had in common? All three were young coaches on the defensive side of the ball. And the one time they decided to go on the offensive side of the ball, they hired the 63-year-old coach who will be here, what, 5 years tops, maybe? 5 years at most? If he's here more than 5 years, Austin, I don't know if I can go on if he's here more than 5 years. It's just a very factual statement there. But again, there's nothing I can do now. And here's one thing. The thing that made me even more mad was like they talked about in the interview process. He's like, his ability to develop quarterbacks, dating back to his days as QB coach, went for Joe Montana in the 1990s under Marty Schottenheimer. That's like Adam Gase saying he developed Peyton Manning. Like, what the frick are we talking about here? He didn't develop Joe. And also, what quarterback is there to develop here? Will Howard? The only way I get excited about this hire or any intrigue at all is if he truly believes he can develop Will Howard, start him next year. That is the only way I get any intrigue out of this hire, if he can develop Will Howard into something. Then I kind of get a little bit of intrigue, but just if I keep on going, I could rant for another hour, but I'm not gonna make you sit through that.
They're already talking in his press conference. He's talking about bringing back Aaron
Yeah.
Rodgers. He's wanting him back. Who watches that game against the Texans and says, I want Aaron Rodgers as my quarterback in the 2026 2027 NFL season? He's approaching 50 years old, and he's not a Tom Brady approaching 50 years old, where he just won a Super Bowl 2 years ago. He's a bum. His last pass of his NFL career should be that pick six where he gets trucked on the sideline. That's how we should remember Aaron Rodgers, the sad, degenerate loser who should have hung it up 10 years ago. Legitimately. It's just sad and it's shameful. I don't understand. To me, also, this move says to me, had Mike Tomlin not stepped down, he would still be the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
This is a move that's being made because it has to. They did not want to make this move. They had no intention to make this move. And bringing in Mike McCarthy says that to me. To me, this says we're going to stay exactly where we were. We're going to find a guy who's as close to Mike Tomlin as we can possibly get as far as mindset is concerned. And we're just going to see what he can do with the same old, which is what we've been doing with Mike Tomlin for the last decade. It's unfathomable. It blows my mind. And they're stuck in the past. Yeah. But maybe Mike McCarthy gives them a less than 500 season, and they have maybe a different thought process about it.
Maybe. I mean, I tell you what, I'm begging for it at this point. Again, like his first year in Dallas was pretty bad. So if we want to have that, then I'm not mad here if we can get a higher pick, with this quarterbacks that are supposed to be in this next draft. Again, the only way I get excited next year for Steelers football at all is if, number one, Aaron Rodgers doesn't come back, and number two, he's like, look, I believe in developing Will Howard. I'm going to give him a shot this year. I'm like, okay, I'll watch Steeler football to see what Will Howard can be. That would have me intrigued there. Totally random along with that for the Steelers. Arthur Smith is going to be the new OC at Ohio State, was the hire. That happened there. We originally laughed at Matt Patricia whenever he got hired at Ohio State. Look how that worked out for Ohio State. Made him one of the best defenses ever. Now hire another pro coach. Only thing I can say is I'm heartbroken for Jonnu Smith because I'm pretty sure he's out of college eligibility, so he can't go back to college like college basketball players are now. Heartbroken for Jonnu.
Amari Bailey is about to go back, so why not just send Jonnu Smith back since we're allowed to do that? That's a rant for another day.
Yeah, I was about to say, that's after the Super Bowl full-blown episode rant we can do. Yeah, but it's just a disaster of a situation there. Go ahead. I guess I'll finish up with Sears Odd. As far as right now, they have hired Patrick Graham as their defensive coordinator, the former Raiders DC. He was like middle of the pack with the Raiders this year, which kind of tells me if he was able to get middle of the pack with the Raiders this year, maybe with some of the talent at the Steelers are looking to run it back, which again, like I said, it sure seems like they are, then maybe this isn't bad. as of right now, they don't have an OC hired, although the favorite is former quarterback Scott Tolzien. There's a name for you 2010s NFL people.
Uh,
If you know the name Scott
Colts
Tolzien.
legends, Colts legend, right?
Yeah,
He was one of
Colts
those guys that
legend.
started when
Started for the
Andrew Luck.
Packers for a bit under Mike McCarthy. I mean,
Oh,
yeah. So that's why I'm pretty confident it's going to end up being Scott Tolzien.
oh man, that sounds like a mess. They could always bring in JT Barrett. I'd like to see him get an OC job. Though
hey,
I think he's going to end up being the Bears OC though. Now that we'll talk a little bit about what
yeah.
happened with
I was
Declan
about to say. I
Doyle.
was about to say. Yeah. Next one we'll dive into again. What's more. I kind of talked a lot about some of the coordinator hires, so I won't dive too much into it. The only other one I want to add is the Ravens one, like you talked about. They're hiring Bears OC Declan Doyle away for their OC job. Now, the reason he could leave, some people are like, wait a minute, OC for OC, it doesn't make sense. The reason it is because it's play calling related, as in he'll be calling plays for the Ravens when he wasn't calling plays for the Bears. But obviously, you knew him from this past year. What are the Ravens getting in him as their play caller?
They're getting another young offensive genius. Look, 28, like 29 years old. I think when he came over from Denver last year, as just kind of this offensive super genius coming from under Sean Payton as quarterbacks coach to come up to us and be the offensive coordinator. Sat behind Ben Johnson in his masterclass for another year. So you think about a guy that's been around Sean Payton, a guy that's been around Ben Johnson, and now you're going to give him the keys with Lamar Jackson and company in Baltimore, and that play action, that kind of physical, brutal run game with a lot of that play action to feed off of it. That's exactly what I'd like to see with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. I think they're getting a good one in Declan Doyle. And like I said, kind of excited because now this might mean JT Barrett wiggles his way up to offensive coordinator. I haven't heard officially yet, but I'm hoping so. I love me some JT Barrett.
Hey, I don't blame you one bit there. We'll dive into the Ravens' other hire they made that ultimately summarizes again. I'm not looking forward to that hire because I know it's good and I know that I'm just going to go ahead and be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm fully expecting the Ravens to run away with the AFC North next year. That, like, full blown from this coaching carousel, I'm expecting that in the AFC.
Hey, the Browns have a Pro Bowl quarterback, so I don't know what you're
Yes.
talking
Two Pro Bowl quarterbacks. Actually, they had
That's
two
true.
this year.
I have too.
Oh my gosh. But next time we're going to talk about look, whenever the firing happened, we were confused. We didn't know where they were going to go. But you said verbatim, they got to go with Joe Brady or Brian Daboll. And they went with Joe Brady. Buffalo Bills hiring Joe Brady as the new head coach. He was interviewing for the Ravens job, the Raiders job, and ultimately they're keeping him around in Buffalo, which, if you think about it from the press conference that we talked about last episode's perspective, you're like, well, why would they keep him? He drafted Keon Coleman. Frick that guy. But the other perspective is let's keep Josh Allen happy, and this hire goes along with that.
Yeah, it does. Josh Allen, like we kind of talked about, was pretty integral into this interview process. I think he sat in on all the interviews, and he had a pretty big say. This is the move that makes sense to me. Like I said when we talked about it originally, I don't understand the Sean McDermott firing. Look, I'll just give you a grade on this one. I give this hiring of Joe Brady a C plus. Why a C plus? I think this is the best hire you could have gotten. But
Yeah.
why did you fire Sean McDermott? That's where my point. That's where my negative points come in. But yeah, this is what you have to do now. You need to keep Josh Allen happy. You need to get Joe Brady into a better position. Um, I just don't understand the move to get rid of McDermott, though. But yeah, I think you got to keep Joe Brady around. I looked at statistics. Josh Allen under his three offensive coordinators in his career, and under Joe Brady, his numbers are actually stupid. He's like 5 point something touchdowns a game and 1.3 interceptions a game is his average right now. When under the last two coordinators, Daboll, and then I can't remember who it was before Daboll. Uh, it was like he was averaging like 2.5 and then like 2.7 under Daboll. And so he's gotten that number down to like 1.3 interceptions per game. So he has a higher completing percentage, throws more touchdowns, and throws less interceptions per game under Joe Brady. He clearly has good chemistry with Joe Brady. That's the part that's working. Keep that part working. I think that's the right move. as right of a move as you can make with the confusing offseason they're having in Buffalo.
Yeah, to say the least, I'll go ahead and bring it up. They are bringing in Jim Leonhard from the Broncos, their pass game coordinator, bringing him over as their defensive coordinator, which honestly, if they really thought that they should upgrade the defense, that's why they fired him. Then I get this because Jim Leonhard, I think, is a good hire. That pass defense in Denver has been incredible. Also, he had Patrick Surtain, but look what he did for guys like Riley Moss up there. I think this could be a fun hire for Buffalo on the defensive side of the ball.
I'm with you there.
But next one we're going to talk about. Look, we'll just add it really quickly. We thought we were done with the firings. You know, whenever Aaron Glenn, after that first year, they fired pretty much every coach on the staff, except for their OC, Tanner Engstrand. And for some reason, they decided to fire him like 6 days ago, all of a sudden out of nowhere. I'm not downing Aaron Glenn because it's a tough situation, so I don't blame him for the situation. But if every single coach you hired in year one is fired after year one, that's a bad sign to me. I'm no expert, but to me that screams that's a bad sign.
Yeah. And again, kind of wonder who's making these calls. Is this an Aaron Glenn decision? Is this a front office decision? I think if it's Aaron Glenn, I maybe wouldn't want to fire everybody I hired in my first year. I
Yeah.
think that, like you said, not a great look. Um, and especially again, talk about firing guys so late. Like head coaching jobs are being filled
Yeah.
right now. You've just completely given yourself no chance. And like the best offensive coordinator candidates out there, like why do they want the Jets job? They're
Mm-hmm.
probably not going to get a great quarterback if they do go quarterback in this draft. I wouldn't want that offensive coordinator job.
Mm-mm, me neither.
But if this is a front office decision, it's kind of a conversation we have way too often with the NFL. It's like you got to give people a chance to do
Right.
something, like to just clean house the first off season. I don't get like can't have any success. You don't just find Sean McVays
No.
and lying around. You have to work for it, you have to earn it. And you have to give people a chance. So I don't know. It's very confusing what's going on with the Jets organization. At least they didn't fire Aaron Glenn. I know their ESPN really pushed that narrative
Yes, they
hard
did.
at the
Yes,
end
they.
of the season. And I didn't understand it. I don't understand. I don't understand having a bad team, then getting a first time head coach, and then that bad team is surprise bad. And then being like, it's your fault.
Yeah. I mean
Um,
that makes sense to me. But again, the only ones that I would have saw, and if he would have been like, I'm firing the secondaries coach, I'm firing the DB, if because with the zero interceptions all year, and then you fire those
that,
guys, I'm like,
yeah,
okay,
that's
that one's
bad.
valid. That one's valid. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm with you.
but we're gonna actually pivot away because I completely forgot about this as I'm going through my notes to bring it up. One of the biggest jokes happened literally a week ago. Bill Belichick, 8 time Super Bowl winning head coach, Bill Belichick, is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. He fell short of the vote count needed to be inducted in his first year of eligibility. Pardon one mouse. What the frick are we doing here? Like, what are we doing, Austin? How is Bill Belichick? No, I know people don't like him, but how is this guy not a first ballot Hall of Famer?
I have a solution to fix the Hall of Fame. It's my same solution to fix the Baseball Hall of Fame. You go down a list, you look at everybody who voted. If you didn't vote for Bill Belichick,
Yeah.
sorry, you're gone. Sorry, you're gone. Don't care, don't care, don't care, don't care, don't care. How does the look? And this is the same argument that's been made for the Baseball Hall of Fame for years and years and years and years. And I
Mm-hmm.
think we did an episode a few years ago where we
Yep.
had this conversation. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you like Spygate. I don't care if you like Bill Belichick. I don't care. There is not a greater coach that has ever stepped on the football field.
Mm-mm.
There isn't. To leave Bill Belichick out is to stain the entire Hall of Fame. It now means nothing to be a Hall of Fame head coach. It means nothing. It doesn't. It's just like leaving Barry Bonds. If you leave Barry Bonds off of the Hall of Fame, which they've done for years and years and
Yep.
years, you should not have a vote. It's unfathomable. Like you said, 8 times Super Bowl winning, 6 times as a head coach, and he's not in. He's not in. I don't.
Here's my question, because the way the reports came out about like Spygate and everything, that's the reason they're holding him out. They gonna not let Tom Brady be first ballot because of Deflategate? Like, are we gonna
I
do
don't.
that?
I mean, to me, that's the only fair thing. I don't think
Right.
Brady should be punished, but that's the thing is we're not going to see that. Also, Robert Kraft, who is also in this process, is just going to get through like he didn't have as much to do with either of those scandals.
Yeah.
Or the major scandal he got in trouble for a couple years ago, the one that we can't even say.
Yeah.
And that's like, oh, that's good. The really illegal stuff that he was doing, like
Yeah.
the same stuff that's got Justin Tucker blacklisted from the NFL right now. Deshaun Watson, huge hot button issue, but Robert Kraft, get him in the Hall of
Yeah.
Fame. So I mean, there's my anti-Robert Kraft to the Hall of Fame propaganda for you.
Yeah.
But that's what I don't understand. It's like, and look, some guys are already coming out. If you're brazen enough to come out and say that you didn't vote for Bill Belichick, all right, bye, there's your vote. Um, that I mean, that makes it easy for me. I can't ever trust another thing that guy says. If I'm the newspaper that you work for, I'm firing you. I don't want that bad press. Come out and say, oh, it's not because of Bill Belichick cheated, even though that's what Bill Bolian said we were talking
Mhm.
about.
Yeah.
Uh, it's actually just because some of these old timers, they're going to fall off the ballot if I don't vote for them now. Let them, they're not good enough
Yeah.
to be in the Hall of Fame. If you're going to fall off the ballot because you don't get voted in, then that means you're probably not a Hall of Famer. They didn't
Oh.
say, they said these names of these guys that they chose over Bill Belichick. And I was like, who is that guy? Who is that guy? Legitimately. We, I mean, it's such a joke when we're like, oh, but the guy you've never heard of that played, he was the slot corner on the 1980 49ers. You know, they had a really good defense.
Yeah.
We don't have to put every single guy that played on the Niners in the 80s in the Hall of Fame. I
Right.
don't need their third string running back in. I I mean, and to me that more illegitimizes it. Oh, let's feel bad for the guy who's probably not a Hall of Famer. Let's give him a vote and leave Bill Belichick out. What? What are you talking? It's ridiculous. When you start having buddies and stuff that you start voting into the Hall of Fame, that's when we start to have a problem with the Hall of Fame. Baseball had this problem in the very beginning days. They would just be like, oh, there were 4 guys that used to decide who got in the Hall of Fame and who didn't. And they were all friends and they all worked around baseball. And they'd be like, yeah, I coached this guy. And he'd be like, yeah, this guy was on a team that I owned. He was a real nice guy. Nice guys in the Hall of Fame. That's like a 7 WAR. In 20 seasons of baseball, he has a 7 WAR. He's in the Hall of Fame. Sure, I guess he's a nice guy. And that's what we got happening now. You're telling me Artie Smith or whatever his name is a Hall of Famer because I felt bad for him? That's Hall of Fame worthy. I felt bad for him. He's going to get left off the ballot next year.
I mean,
Sorry, Artie. You're not a Hall of Famer then. I'm not a Hall of Famer.
no, me neither.
I mean, I feel bad for me. Put me in the Hall of Fame. I'd fall off the ballot. I just don't get it. And I hate to come after poor Artie or whoever,
Right,
because
right.
it does suck. And I'm sure it does suck to hear you're not worthy of being in the Hall of Fame. But come on. It's not even comparable. We have the greatest head coach of all time and some Joe Schmo you've never heard of, but because I feel like, sorry, clear them out. 50 new voters next year. That's my proposition to you. 50 new voters, or, shout out, pardon my take here. I've been watching a couple of their new
Yep.
episodes, and they talked about it. They said hey, if these guys really want to discuss these issues, they want this to be, a big talking point. They want the show to be about them and their votes. Get them all in a room, get them on TV, and they all have to answer
Yep.
for why they vote for who they vote for. Say that on live TV. I didn't vote for Bill Belichick. You have to come out in front of millions of people and say, I didn't vote for Bill Belichick because I felt bad for Artie Jones. I
Yeah.
felt bad for him.
It's it's a thing they've already said they plan to do an investigation into, but again, it's already like you said, it's already just been ruined. I mean, again, this comes from someone who has someday said, someday in my life, I want to go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. At some point in my life, I want to go. And now it just feels like this. I'm like, it just feels like it tarnishes it just a bit. Like you said, it feels like it tarnishes it a bit. I don't know what they can do to make it better. We'll see who gets announced as the official induction class Thursday at the NFL Honors. Let's pivot from something that really makes us angry to something that I think is going to make me and you both very happy when it got announced. Titans hiring Brian Daboll as the OC in Tennessee under Robert Saleh. Cam Ward, I cannot wait to see what Brian Daboll does with Cam Ward. This is exciting to see if you're a Tennessee Titans fan.
Yeah, Saleh, Dable. I like what the Tennessee Titans have done this offseason. Let's see what their draft and their free agency starts to look like this year. But I'm a little bit optimistic about the way Tennessee is looking coming into next season. I think they've taken the right steps to build around Cam Ward.
Yeah, absolutely. They have. Then, of course, that made you think, wow, okay, so now it looks like what's the next domino that's going to fall? And then there was the whole Cleveland Browns drama from their coaching search. If you remember the essay stuff that came out about like the questionnaires and essays they had to do, and everyone's backing out of the job. And ultimately, in my opinion, they made a pretty good hire. Hiring Todd Monken as the Ravens OC, they're hiring Todd Monken as the new head coach in Cleveland. And to me, it's a great hire for him. But the thing again that hurt him is the reports that came out afterwards that they were wanting the coaching staff to keep Jim Schwartz on as the defensive coordinator if they came in. And now if they hired Todd Monken instead of just hiring Jim Schwartz is not happy, and his future in Cleveland is now in question. But I think Todd Monken is a well-deserving coach that deserves a head coaching opportunity. I don't know if he's going to be able to thrive there because of the situation, but he's a good coach.
Yeah, they've got to figure this out. I like Monken. I'm with you. I think Monken's a pretty good hire. But look at the year that this defense had, and you've got Jim Schwartz there still, and now he's unhappy. I don't know. I would have liked to see them reward Jim Schwartz, and then maybe work something out with an offensive coordinator. I know the offense is still going to need a lot of attention, and I get that that's why they went Monken, but you'll get rid of Stefanski, which I still think is controversial.
Mm-hmm.
I think Schwartz kind of makes the most sense if you're wanting to keep him around. That didn't happen. Um, Look, if he really doesn't want to come back next year, I think forcing him to come back is the worst thing you
Yeah.
can do for the team. I think it's maybe just time to let him go.
To me, it's just if you really wanted to keep him now, why not just make him the head coach? Like if you
I
really
agree.
wanted
I
to
agree.
keep him around, just hire him as head coach. Because telling these other coaches, hey, you have to do it this way. You have to hire this coach or you're not going to come here. They're going to be like, I don't want to come here underneath that. No. And then that's why
Yeah.
all those people have backed out of the job.
Yep.
Um, totally random hires. I just want to add in there. This one I just thought was hilarious. We don't got to talk about it. The Dolphins are hiring Texans assistant O line coach Zach Yenzer as their official offensive line coach. He was hired as the Texans pass protection coordinator, and he's going to run the Miami Dolphins offensive line.
Wouldn't trust
The
him.
joke writes itself. I'm just going to leave it at that. The joke writes itself.
That's bad. I wouldn't trust that guy to protect anything.
No.
Clearly, he's not capable of that. Defensive line coach, he might make a good one of those.
Yeah, I think so as well. So next one is diving to the Eagles offensive coordinator hire. They made a move. They're hiring Sean Mannion as their offensive coordinator. Those of you who don't know, Sean Mannion, also a former NFL quarterback, had been in Green Bay as their quarterback's coach. Now he's coming over to Philly. Obviously, the question being, what can he do for this offense? Because this is now, once again, another coordinator hire for Jalen Hurts under Nick Sirianni, and what's already a bit of a tough year coming up for this Eagles team. Can he work out in Philly, Austin? That is the question.
Yeah, we're currently in the part of the cycle, if you follow, where they just had really bad coordinators, and now they're getting the good ones that are going to leave for head coaching jobs
Yeah.
next year. That's how the cycle goes. If you don't know,
Yeah.
they have bad coordinators, then they fire them. They bring in good coordinators. They go to the Super Bowl. Those coordinators take head coaching jobs. Then they hire bad coordinators, and it starts all over again. It's just a cycle. So we're in the part of the cycle where they're about to go to the Super Bowl next year, and then they lose good coordinators to head coaching jobs. So I'm not worried about it, but I do really like this move. Sean Mannion, like you said, has that NFL quarterback experience, but also comes from Matt LaFleur, that Shanahan tree by extension. So he comes from a pretty good offensive system. Though out of all the Shanahan systems that are out there right now, I think Green Bay's is probably the worst.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't really mean anything. It's still a good system, but I think probably last year I don't know. The Dolphins were bad, but
Yeah.
I don't think the Dolphins were bad because, well, I'm a Mike McDaniel stan, so I'm biased there. So, but I don't think it was Mike McDaniel's fault. I also don't think it's Matt LaFleur's fault that his entire team was injured. So I guess that's a fair counterpoint to that argument.
Yeah.
But I think he could come in and help bring some life to the offense. I think he's a good option. And again, this Shanahan system and then like Ben Johnson system, those are the systems that are kind of running NFL offenses right now. And I think right now, anybody that can get on board with either one of those ways. We saw Kansas City bring back Bieniemy, who coached with Ben Johnson this year. Declan Doyle had it off. I think it looks like a lot of people are trying to branch off in one of those two directions. They're trying to get a guy that coaches in the Shanahan tree or coach a guy. A lot of people have gone and got guys that coach with Ben Johnson this year.
Hey,
So
either that or Sean McVay. It's either that or
yeah.
it's Sean McVay is the other one too. So that's fair.
So you've kind of got that true that and they have the similarities with the run heavy, the big play action plays. So I think that's where a lot of teams want to build their offenses right now. That's where they like it. So yeah, I think anytime you can get a guy who has even the smallest amount of experience coaching an offense that way, you're a part of the curve now in the NFL, and you've at least got a modern offense to compete.
Yeah, one can hope that at least. We'll see if that improves for the Eagles offense. Lord knows it can't get much worse than what was there last year. So it can only go up from there. Fun one I just want to add in here again. The Dolphins are also hiring Nathaniel Hackett as their quarterbacks coach. There's a name I have not heard in a year or two. Nathaniel Hackett, for those of you who don't know, obviously was a coach for the Broncos for some time, but now he's going to spend time with whoever the Dolphins go with the quarterback next year. So
when you say for some time, it makes it sound like he coached for at least a year. That's not what happens.
For a couple of weeks. He was there for a couple of weeks as
for a couple of weeks. He was on vacation in Denver. He wasn't even coaching really.
His side hobby on his vacation was being the Broncos head coach. That's what it was.
He was like a fan. He was visiting for a couple of weeks and they just put him on the sideline for a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he's not the Steelers OC just because,
don't you fricking dare.
Coached under Mike McCarthy, buddies with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
I mean, he has all the makings of the next Steelers offensive coordinator.
Dude, if that would have happened, no, I couldn't have came on to an episode. If Mike McCarthy was my head coach and then Nathaniel Hackett was our offensive coordinator, no. Let's move on to another subject because that just infuriates me just trying to picture that in my head. This next one, another coaching, not a coaching hire, but a firing. Vikings have fired their GM Kwesi Adofo-Mensah this past week, right after the Senior Bowl. And look, there's an obvious glaring thing here about part of the firing. The big thing, Sam Darnold, who they let walk, is now in the Super Bowl. Obviously, J.J. McCarthy didn't work out this year. But also, from stuff I've been reading, there was a lot of tension in the building between him and the coaching staff. They didn't really get along. This seems like a thing where they really weren't getting along, and there was really Kevin O'Connell was chosen over the GM. To me, that's what it seems like, at least.
Yeah, and it just kind of seems like, I mean, I've read the same stuff you read. Last offseason, KSC sat down and said, we should bring back Sam Darnold.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think the best look for our offense is next year. Uh, GM disagreed. They went in a different direction. Even though there was a trade lined up, I saw to send McCarthy to the Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
He turned that down, said, no, we don't want Darnold back. And then this season happened, and like you said, there was the tension in the building. I think it's a tough situation. You get two guys that have their way made up, and kind of one guy pulls the I'm the GM card. And I'm not saying he's wrong for doing that. You don't certainly have to stick to your guns
Right.
sometimes in
Right.
that role. Like obviously they trusted him to be the GM, so that comes with its luxuries. But I think ownership did the right thing. Firing Kevin O'Connell would be stupid. He'd be the most
Yes.
sought after
Very
coach
stupid.
in the NFL. And also, for what it's worth, he was right. So if you're going to fire somebody for this blunder, you should probably fire the person that made the mistake, not the guy who was right. And that's not saying that J.J. McCarthy can't be good, and that's not saying he's not worthy of still being the quarterback of the Vikings. But clearly, in this situation, Kevin O'Connell was right about what the Vikings should have done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that Sam Darnold could have taken this team to the Super Bowl, but Sam Darnold clearly showed that he's a good quarterback and he can take somebody to the Super Bowl. Um, and so, yeah, it just kind of sucks. But I did see that there are some people trying to smear former Vikings GM for spending time with his
Yes.
kids during the
How,
season.
how dare he spend time with his newborn
Yeah.
son? What a piece of garbage. Like, what are you people talking about?
I think that crosses a line, but I think it's because I don't know if you saw Mike McDonald said he only spends 30 minutes a week with
Yes,
his
I
kids,
did see that.
which he
Like, what
then
do you
had to come
mean you
back.
spend more than 30 minutes with your kid a day? What is wrong with you?
Then he had to come back out and say, okay, that was an exaggeration, and that's not what I meant. Also, though, the kid was like literally just born. So, I
Right.
mean, spending more than 30 minutes with the kid, it's not
And
gonna make that much of a difference while the kid's little.
yeah.
But yeah, that's just a whole lot of crazy kid stuff came out over the course of the last
Yeah.
week.
That
Um,
that is truly bizarre. And also, here's the thing that to me, it was like during the training camp session, and he was working virtually. Like what is there really that he was missing during that
yeah,
time? I mean,
agree.
so I don't understand. I will say this. I get if you want to make the move. I don't get waiting till late January to make the move. And
Yeah,
because now they're not hiring a GM until after the draft. They're going with the coaching staff and other people in the front office controlling what the draft's going to be. So this honestly, I'll be honest with you, even though I don't think he should be, I think this puts Kevin O'Connell on the hot seat for next year if things don't work out. I'm not saying he should be fired. I don't think he should be because he's the best coach Minnesota's had in a bit. But I think this firmly kind of says that he might be on the hot seat next year, which if he is, every single team in the NFL is going to go after Kevin O'Connell next year.
yeah, I know. If you have any coaching doubts, it might be time to take a swing.
Yeah,
If he comes up as a free agent. Um,
absolutely. But
but
you go ahead. What do you
quick
got? What do you got?
quick note, I just wanted to bring up. Did you see that the Bears got absolutely cheated out of two compensation picks?
Yes, I did about the
Because
assistant GM hire,
I didn't
right?
know if we were gonna bring it up,
Yeah.
but
I was
yes,
playing. That was literally the next thing in my notes I was actually going to bring up because I knew you
okay,
were going to have a
perfect.
say
I'm
in it.
glad that we were gonna
But
get this.
I mean, go ahead. We're right here. Go ahead and fill us in on it, Austin. Go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't know if this is where we are gonna go or not. I didn't know if we would talk about this. I'm not happy about this. Ian Cunningham comes in. He's the Bears assistant GM. He comes in with Ryan Poles. He comes in with Matt Eberflus, and he's been awesome. He's been a super helpful piece helping Ryan Poles build this team together. He's been learning from Ryan Poles. He's been one of these hugely sought after front office prospects
Mm-hmm.
for a while. But for 2 years in a row, he has not budged. He's had some offers and he hasn't left. Finally takes a job in Atlanta that he likes where he can be their GM. Except I guess because technically they're not calling him the GM and they hired Matt Ryan to
Right.
basically
Yep.
be GM. we don't get any compensation picks because it's not an upgrade, even though it is. So I'm a little bit bitter about that because we're losing uh one of the best front office minds in all of football for nothing, and the compensation we're supposed to get for that is being taken away for nothing. So I'm not happy about it. I wish Ian Cunningham well. I've been kind of expecting him to make that move for a while. But he's stuck around. He's helped build. I'm glad that he waited until, we've had the best year in the Poles era. Like, I feel like he feels like his job is, finished or mostly finished.
Yeah.
We're in a good place to leave us. But I am upset that we're not getting any of the compensation picks we're supposed to get for giving, Atlanta one of the best front office pieces they can possibly have.
Yeah, I agree. I think yeah, and that was literally because he had gotten fired as GM, and I was like, okay, this is the perfect time to add in that one because I knew Austin was going to have a sound. Because yeah, I
Yeah.
was shocked, but I'm like, I guess if Matt Ryan's just the president of football, they just don't get anything there. So yeah, it's an odd thing there because I expect because like I said because I think the same thing sort of happened with Adam Peters with the Niners when he got hired by the Commanders. Something along the same lines happened there. And even then, the Niners still got compensatory picks still.
Yeah. I don't know how we're not getting any compensation picks. Hopefully, the NFL goes back and changes their mind. Maybe we'll make a big interest think about it. But yeah, I think that if you have one of the best front office guys in football that's not a GM and he takes an upgrade in pay, you should get a compensation big. I don't.
That seems fair to me as far as it goes. One hire here, I completely forgot in my notes, but I know you were going to enjoy hearing about it. Jonathan Gannon was hired as the Green Bay Packers' new defensive coordinator. Um,
Yes.
this is one that happened a little bit while back. I forgot to mention this one. If you remember his Eagles defenses before he got hired by the Cardinals, they weren't necessarily the greatest in the world with the talent surrounding them. But I mean, what you see the Packers a lot. Do you think this helps or makes the Packers worse, and you're feeling good about the hire?
Um, I think we'll have to see. Obviously, Gannon's not coming off his best stretch, but maybe just focusing on defenses, and having some of the pieces he's going to have in Green Bay, he could maybe create a real monster out there. But I'm excited to see the opportunity. I'm not so much worried about it with him joining the Packers as much as I am. They're going to get healthy probably, and we're going to have to just climb that hill again next season in the NFC North. Lions, Packers. I mean, kind of like Ben Johnson said, we're starting from scratch next year. So I'm ready to just. I'm not exactly ready for having to stress about all that again next year.
Nonetheless, let's wrap up these coaching searches. Let's talk about the last two head coaching hires made and what is now my favorite one. Raiders hiring, while not official, it's very clear they are hiring Clint Kubiak, Seahawks OC, as their next head coach. Him and Tom Brady hit it off in their meeting. Makes sense. But man, just think about it, Austin. Clint Kubiak, what he's done to the Seahawks offense. He's going to a Raiders team that's most likely getting Fernando Mendoza, has Ashton Genty and Brock Bowers to work with. Not a bad starting point for the offense. Obviously, they got to get the defense figured out. This is my favorite head coaching hire.
Yeah, the only reason it took so long for Kubiak to get a job is because he happens to be coaching on a team that's going to go to the Super Bowl
Right.
this year. A lot of people just didn't have the patience to wait around for that. And I get that, you're trying to get your team built and ready for next year. But yeah, I like this hire. I think this is a good move. It feels kind of rare that you see the team with the number one pick kind of clearing house at head coaching, has a lot of needs. Feels almost kind of rare that you see these teams getting one of, if not the best available hire
Right.
uh, in the cycle. You think about a guy like Ben Johnson for 2 years in a row. He wanted the Chicago job, didn't have the number one pick. They already had an established quarterback, had an established team kind of identity. And that's what appealed to Ben Johnson. You don't see it again. You just don't see it a lot where, it looks like they're, I mean, if they don't want Mendoza, it'll be the Raiders to say that they don't. It won't be
Yeah.
anybody else to tell them they can't have him. So like, I mean, technically he does have Mendoza if he wants him. But it just feels like they have a lot of needs. And he still wants that challenge. He still wants to kind of take on that job in Las Vegas. And I respect it. You just, to me, it feels like you don't see that a lot from the top coordinators or, the top hires in the cycle.
Yeah, all I can say is I look forward for Fernando Mendoza getting to work with him straight away in the NFL. That is going to be a fun thing to
Yeah.
watch in Vegas. No, to say the least. Last head coaching hire that we're going to dive into, but I'll just add the only things I was going to add, if anything, some OC and DC hires have Raheem Morris going back to the NFC West. He's going to the Niners as their defensive coordinator. Um, Obviously, the other one that got broke today, Davis Webb, who was interviewed for several head coaching jobs, now taking over as the Broncos OC. So some interesting coordinator hires there. And then the last one, as of now, Anthony Weaver, who also interviewed for the Steelers job, is going to be the Ravens' new DC. So thoughts on those coordinator hires? I freaking hate the Ravens having such a good coaching staff again. I hate it.
Yeah. A lot of good moves. Like you said, the Ravens one is really good. I think the Broncos, like you said, Davis Webb interviewed for head coach jobs, and now he's going to come in and be their new OC. Good move out there. Who knows what that offense is going to look like next year with Bo Nix's injury, but it's a good quality team. They've got some, solid pieces out there. I like those hires. I think it'll be interesting to see kind of how they really shake out. And Raheem Morris, it feels weird that he didn't kind of end up back with the Rams.
Yeah.
But I guess they ended up not losing, coordinators like they thought they might.
Yeah, I was about to say that was a big thing coming from this. Chris Shula stays. Nathan Shieldhouse is most likely going to be their new OC with the guy who's leaving. Our final head coaching hire that happened, Mike LaFleur, brother of Green Bay Packers coach Matt LaFleur, hired as the Arizona Cardinals head coach. I'll be honest with you, given how bad this Cardinals head coaching search has been, getting a guy like Mike LaFleur is honestly a win for them because this was a rough coaching search for most of the time. And obviously, he wasn't calling plays where that was Sean McVay. He called plays in some games. But interesting hire here, especially hiring someone in division. Interesting hire here. What are your thoughts?
Um, I think it's an all right move. I think he gives kind of whatever the future of this offense looks like a bit of a jolt. Um, again, coming from the Shanahans and the McVays, or Ben Johnsons, that's kind of the moves a lot of teams are wanting to make. That's kind of the modern NFL offense right now. And trying to get on that trend as you look to bring in most likely somebody new. It kind of seems like the Kyler experience is going to be ending in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
So I like him to kind of helm whatever rebuild there is on the offensive side of the football. Um, I just it's kind of hard to know what to feel about Arizona because they just have not done anything really consequential in a while. I mean,
Yeah.
even they brought in Kingsbury and it looked like it might be a good move. And, then they get rid of Rose and bring in Murray. And just really since then, it just hasn't been a lot they can do about
Mm.
anything they've put out on the field. So we'll see what happens in Arizona. I think it could be a good move. Also, do we know if Mike and Matt LaFleur are like adopted siblings? Because they don't look
Yeah.
the same at
From
all.
what I looked up, because I was curious like you, from what I saw, they're brothers. That's all I know. All I know is they're brothers. That's all I can find.
They just I saw a picture of him after it got announced he was hired as the Cardinals head coach, and I was like, he looks nothing like Mike LaFleur. Like he looks nothing like Matt LaFleur. He just doesn't. And so I was like, are they really brothers? I was like, for a second, I was like, have I been making this them being brothers stuff up? Like, is that actually just made up and they're not brothers? And I've just been thinking that for no reason, just because they have the same last name. But yeah, as far as I can tell, they're brothers. I'm just curious if anybody had any inside, if maybe they're adopted brothers or
I
something, or if they're
did
just
look it up because I was curious, and it just kept on saying brother. I was like, okay, that seems a bit suspicious,
yeah,
but
it's not specific enough. I'm gonna need to know if you're actually biologically related or not.
yeah. But nonetheless, that was the last head coaching hire. All head coaching spots are filled. Here's my question to you, also, last one before we dive into the NFL awards. Which of these hires do you think is going to have the most success in year number one?
Oh, I mean, hard not to talk about Jesse Minter, right?
Mhm.
We talked about him. But I'll talk about a guy we didn't talk about this episode, and a guy we talked about when it first happened. John Harbaugh in New
Yeah,
York. I like that hire. I think says a real deal kind of tone for this team. It shows what they're about, and what this rebuild looks like. And does Jackson Dart have longevity? Does Cam Scatterbo have longevity with kind of the reckless way that they play football? I don't know, but I think this team's going to take some big strides next year under John Harbaugh, gets them a little bit more serious and helps them do some more growing up, which a lot of those guys did at the end of last season.
absolutely. If I had to pick the hire, I think that's going to work out best long term. I think it's Clint Kubiak with the Raiders, but they have a lot of questions to solve on defense. Their offense will be fun next year. Don't know about the defense. They got some work to do there. One that I think could help next year in a division that's always up for grabs. I think a hire like Kevin Stefanski could really work out for Atlanta if I had to pick one here. They have a lot of the great pieces. The Bijan, I think, would fit great in his offense. They clearly have a new trust in Matt Ryan, all those guys at the top along with him. I think it's one that could work out for them. So I'd keep an eye on Kevin Stefanski and them in Atlanta, especially with how tough this division always is to predict. We never know what's going to happen here. It's always going to be an 8 or 9 win team winning that division. But enough talk about coaching hires. We're done with that. Let's talk some NFL awards. NFL honors coming up this week. Obviously, we're going to give our picks here. Let's start with a fun one, Austin. This was a new NFL honors award that they're doing. I don't know what the odds are, but this is just fun. I thought it'd be is the first ever Protector of the Year award, which highlights the league's top offensive linemen this year in the NFL. And the nominees for this award: Garrett Bowles, the offensive tackle for the Broncos; Aaron Brewer, center for the Dolphins; Creed Humphrey, center for the Chiefs; Quinn Miners for the Denver Broncos, their guard; Penei Sewell, offensive tackle for the Lions; and Joe Tooney, the guard from the Chicago Bears. I know where you're leaning. But let's go ahead and let's hear who are you picking for this one.
Joe Tooney was awesome this year coming over from Kansas City. We got, Ben Johnson comes in. We got serious about building an offensive line to protect Caleb Williams. Tooney was one of the first moves in that kind of flurry. I think he might have been the last move. I think it might have been Dolman, Jonah Jackson, and then Joe Tooney.
Yes, I think so. I think you're
But,
right.
but regardless, it was a flurry to build that interior. Then tackle wasn't quite working out, and so Tooney for the end of the season just decided I'm going to play tackle for the first time in my NFL career and do a really really good job at it. Um, so I think Tooney was awesome. I think sliding over to tackle and still playing really really good football at tackle maybe kind of helps having that versatility playing all over the line might help him win this award. Creed Humphrey's another guy I do like, but with kind of the run of quarterback injuries that happened at the end of the year for Chiefs, I would maybe not give it to Creed Humphrey this year. I would say, the offensive line didn't protect a whole lot down the stretch this season for them.
Yeah, I'm going to pick him as well. The only other one I could think of if any was going to be Creed Humphrey, but obviously given what happened there. But I'll say it's Joe Tooney. Everywhere he goes, he's a winner. And you're seeing that everywhere he's been, he's a winner. He was super helpful for the Bears. I was going to bring it up. You talked about at the end of the year, he was playing tackle for the Bears and did a
Yeah.
really good job for them. So to me, if we're talking about just Protector of the Year award, absolutely, I'm looking at him for that. Next up here, let's go ahead and let's do it. Let's dive into the Comeback Player of the Year award. This is an intriguing award here, although I think there's a pretty clear candidate winner here. But let's hear them. Comeback Player of the Year nominees: Stephon Diggs from the Patriots, Aiden Hutchinson from the Lions, Trevor Lawrence from the Jaguars, Christian McCaffrey from the Niners, and Dak Prescott from the Cowboys. To me, there's a pretty obvious one that should get this. I really don't know about some of these, but who do you have winning this award for Comeback Player of the Year?
To me, there's only one player who meets all of the criteria, in my opinion, has a legitimate comeback, and also played really good this year. And to me, that's Aiden Hutchinson. Came back from the pretty brutal injury that he suffered at the end of the year last year. That kind of derailed I say derailed the Lions season. They still had a really, really good season. But he maybe could have helped push that team into the Super Bowl and maybe even a Super Bowl victory. Hate to throw that around, but he was really, really good for them. And for him to come back and be that impact force again, especially again with the brutal injury that he suffered, I think is awesome. I know a lot of people are picking Christian McCaffrey to win this award, and I think that kind of undermines what this award is about.
Right.
Christian McCaffrey had a pretty good season last year. I know he got banged up a little bit at the end of the year, but it wasn't like his leg got snapped in half in the middle of a game, and then he had to come back and play the best defensive line of his career.
Yep.
Uh, I think McCaffrey had a really good season. If he had actually been coming back from something, I think I would hear out that argument. But I think the player again that has something to legitimately come back from and had a really good season, I'm going Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah, I'm not going to waste time. Mine's also Aiden Hutchinson again. Like you said, he's really the only one. If there was any, I guess there could have been an argument for Trevor Lawrence. I guess it as a comeback year, as a
I
bounce
agree.
back year for. If there was a
Yeah,
bounce back year, bounce back player of the year award, I'd
agreed.
give it to Trevor Lawrence this year. But I guess they're kind of putting in that tone, so we'll go with it. Defensive rookie of the year up next here. Some fun candidates: Abdul Carter from the Giants, obviously. Nick Emanwari from the Seahawks. James Pierce Jr. from the Falcons. Carson Swessinger from the Browns, and then Xavier Watts from the Atlanta Falcons. Where are you leaning defensive rookie of the year? This one, I'm not going to lie to you, has a heavy favorite, but these are all five really good candidates for the award.
Yeah, I think these are five really good candidates. I really want to lean with Abdul Carter. I like him, but he struggled kind of to start the season. They had some of the kind of fiasco in the middle of the season. Really got it together at the end of the season. If you take that small sample size from the end of the season and you would stretch that out over the course of the season, we're probably looking at defensive
Yeah,
player of the year, defensive rookie of the year right
I
there.
would agree.
But he didn't have that same success across the whole season. I'd go with Nick Emanwari. I liked what he offered at the back end of this Seahawks defense this season, especially as a rookie. You think a lot of the pieces they play with on in the secondary might be
Yep.
the only reason he doesn't win this award, in my opinion, just because there's
Right.
so many good players in their secondary. But that's where my vote would go.
Yeah, to me, that's exactly where I was going to go to. I know Carson Swessinger is the heavy favorite, and rightfully so. He had a pretty good rookie year for the Browns. I'm not going
Yeah.
to disagree with that. But to me, Eamon Warriors had the biggest impact on a team. He is Mike McDonald's Kyle Hamilton, which is ironically how he got the job in Seattle in the
Yes.
first place. This is basically his Kyle Hamilton, and he's done a great job with it. So absolutely, I think Nick Eamon deserves it just as much. Although Xavier Watts, I think people don't realize how good Xavier Watts was in Atlanta this year. Like I don't think people realize how good he was,
I
and that was a higher. That was one me and you both kind of liked.
Yeah. I like Xavier Watts. Don't get me started on Xavier Watts, but I think the issue that's going to hurt Xavier Watts is nobody watched him play football for Atlanta this
Exactly.
year. Like,
Yep.
just nobody watched the Falcons play football. I think that's definitely got a little bit more talk to it if anybody cared at all, but nobody cares.
Yeah, you're right there, unfortunately, but all those guys definitely deserve credit. Offensive rookie of the year, and this is one actually as of right now I know is actually pretty close when it comes to the odds. Nominees: Jackson Dart from the Giants, Emeka Abuka from the Buccaneers, Travion Henderson from the Patriots, Tedoroa McMillan from the Panthers, and Tyler Shook from the Saints, who what a push he had to end the year. That ultimately he might win him this award ultimately.
Yeah.
But who do you think should be the offensive rookie of the year from these five candidates?
Look, you can make a case for all these guys. At some point in the season, they played out of their minds. But I'm looking for the guy that had like the most sustained success. And I'm gonna go with Ted McMillan. He was a little bit slow to start the season, but once he caught his groove, him and Bryce Young looked like kind of an unstoppable duo. And he really powered through the end of this season. The other guy I'd really consider is Emeka Ibuka. Started the season so hot, was definitely the best offensive rookie for the first 5 or 6 weeks.
Absolutely.
But when the rest of this team kind of fell off the face of the earth, so did he.
Hmm.
And so that's just kind of an unfortunate circumstance for the entire Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'd go with Ted McMillan, though.
Yeah, to me, that's a pretty easy one. I'm also going Ted McMillan. 1,000-yard receivers rookie year really helped Bryce Young. We talked about it whenever he got drafted there last year. We both said this is a move to help Bryce Young. And it not only helped Bryce Young, it helped the Carolina Panthers win the division. I would not be mad if Tyler Shook won because he had a great final, like second half of the season whenever he finally took over. But I understand not giving it to him because he didn't start the whole year. Same with Trevion
Yeah.
Henderson. Um, But yeah, I agree. I'm going to go Tet McMillan. Let's move now to the Defensive Player of the Year award. And everyone knows who the favorite is to win the award, but I'm going to say the nominees anyway because they are all nominees and they deserve them. Will Anderson from the Texans, Nick Bonito from the Broncos, Myles Garrett from the Browns, Aiden Hutchinson from the Lions, and Micah Parsons from the Packers here. We all know who the overwhelming favorite for the award is. Oh, what are your thoughts on it?
I think any vote not for Myles Garrett is kind of disrespectful. I'm personally going to lean Myles Garrett, a historic season. But look, guys like Nick Bonito, Will Anderson deserve a shout out because they were awesome this year. It's unfortunate they're just competing with maybe the best defensive line season in the history of the NFL.
Yeah, I could be butthurt and just not say Myles Garrett's going to win the award, but I can't. Yeah, I mean, he's going to win it. He'll probably. It won't be you. I don't know if it'll be unanimous, but it'll be pretty close to unanimous. I think. I mean, the only one to ever have unanimous was T.J. Watt back in, or not T.J. J.J. Watt in 2013, 2014. Only unanimous defensive player of the year ever. So
You just had to say TJ Watt's name, didn't you?
I meant JJ. I meant JJ. TJ, I do love you though. Don't forget it. Let's move now to the Offensive Player of the Year award, also known as the Best Non-Quarterback Award, as we've come to know it in this year. Although there is a quarterback up for the award. Let's take a look at the nominees for Offensive Player of the Year: Drake May, Christian McCaffrey, Puka Nakua, Bijan Robinson, and Jackson Smith and Jigba. Not gonna lie, all five are insanely great nominees for this award. Only one gets it. Who do you think is going to take home this award? Because they are all worthy of it.
I think just having a brain blast, I think what might actually end up happening is Drake May might win this award to
Yeah,
soothe that he's not going to win the MVP. But that's not who I'd pick for this award. I would pick Jackson Smith and Jigba like any day of the week for Offensive Player of the Year. This dude was an actual freak, just playing out of his mind. Made Sam Darnold's life so easy because Sam Darnold could just throw him the ball and he would catch it wherever he was, no matter who was on him. And that really helped, especially with Cooper Cup's kind of slow start to the season. Once Cooper Cup started going, he was there and he was a solid contributor to this offense, but he didn't start hot right away in Seattle. So it was super helpful that Jackson Smith and Jigbo was just the best receiver in football this year.
yeah. I'm not even going to have an argument. Easily him as well. I couldn't agree more on Njigba. Especially when we entered the year, we were like, man, only one star receiver in Seattle. I mean, Cooper Cup's there, a nice second option, but can Jackson Smith and Jigba step up his level of play? The answer, abso-freaking-lutely he could.
Yeah,
I will say, shout out to Bijan though for a great year. I don't think many people are talking about
agreed.
the year Bijan had. Again, kind of similar to the Xavier Watts talk. It was, no one just really cared about the Falcons really the whole second
Yeah,
half of the season.
nobody
So
cares.
that's pretty much just how unfortunate it is. But I agree, Smith and Jigba. I've said since week 4 or 5 that he was the best receiver in football this year. So hands down, he's going to win the award to me. Final award before MVP. That's the Coach of the Year award. This one is a very intriguing one. Very good candidates for all five of them. Let's see. You got Liam Cohen, Ben Johnson, Mike McDonald, Kyle Shanahan, and Mike Vrabel. Just some insane candidates for this award, Austin. I think I know where you're leaning, but what do you got for Coach of the Year?
For Coach of the Year, I'm going to go Kyle Shanahan. This was an absolutely just world class coaching job. Look, I want to make an argument for Ben Johnson all day, and I think that Ben Johnson did enough to get some votes. Like I think he should get a couple votes. What he did in his first year in Chicago, I can't take for granted. But my goodness, look at the roster that Kyle Shanahan legitimately had to run out for some of these football games. I mean, second, third, fourth string guys just having to play. And they found a way to win games. They won double digit games. They went to the playoffs. They beat the Bears right before the end of the season. Like they were playing well all season long, no matter who was on the field. They played well. They gave a fight. Um, they won the first round of the playoffs. Um, so they're something that I think it's hard to beat. It is hard to beat that coaching job this year.
Again, I don't think he'll end up getting it. But I am 100%. I have said that he should have won Coach of the Year since mid-season. Because, like you said, again, the job that he had to try to, he's like, hey, your entire starting defense and most of your starting offense are out for the year. Win with all these backups. He's like, yeah, okay, I'll do that. And he does it, nearly wins the division with all backups. So I think absolutely that's a fair one. One I forgot to mention was actually the assistant coach of the year as well. So that kind of goes along with this. Assistant coach of the year, I know who I'm voting for. If I had to vote, who I'd vote for, but I'll say the nominees: Vic Fangio with the Eagles, Brian Flores with the Vikings, Vance Joseph with the Broncos, Clint Kubiak with the Seahawks, and Josh McDaniels with the Patriots. There's a name I was hoping I would not have to think about. But nonetheless, here we are. I'm just going to get mine out of the way. If I had to pick there, I'm picking Clint Kubiak for the job he did this year. But there's plenty of good candidates. Who are you picking for that?
History trying to erase Dennis Allen's 2026 or 2025 will not be forgotten. The fact that he's not even a nominee for this award and Josh McDaniels is insanity.
That's fair.
But I would go with Clint Kubiak as well. That's who's getting my vote for assistant coach of the year.
Yeah, the only one I'll say is shout out Vance Joseph because he came into an awkward situation in Denver, a place where he was the head coach, got fired, came back, and has done a great job there. But enough talk. Let's head to MVP, our final award here. Obviously, your nominees: Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence, Drake May, Christian McCaffrey, and Matthew Stafford. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bitter that Jackson Smith-Njigba is not an MVP finalist. I'm not saying he's going to win the award. I'm a little bitter he's not an MVP finalist. But we know who the two front runners are. It's Matthew Stafford or it's Drake May. Clearly, it's one of those two right now. Do you have it being one of those two, or do you have a fun little wild card here for your MVP?
It won't be one of those two. It will be Trevor Lawrence. No, I'm just kidding. Trevor Lawrence had a great season. I don't mean to undermine that, but it's got to be Matthew Stafford. We legitimately, there were talks that he was going to hang it up this offseason. His back was destroyed. He would never walk again, let alone play football, and that he was just going to retire. And then he didn't, and he played the best season of football of his career. There was not a player better than Matthew Stafford this season. And I won't hear any arguments. Drake May had an awesome season. He wasn't Matthew Stafford.
Yeah. I'll just go ahead and say that it's Matthew Stafford. Let's just get it out of the way. I also agree. I think it's Matthew Stafford. The wild thing to me, though, is just when you look at his stats this year, I think it gets even more ridiculous. Let's look at his stats from last year just for comparison. So last year, he threw for 3,762 yards, 20 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Not a great year, but not bad. This year, 4,707 yards, 46 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. He doubled. He did more than double. He basically almost it wasn't even close what he did this year to me. And I know the argument is, well, duh, he has Devontae and Puka Nacua and all that. And it's like, yeah, but you don't see that kind of jump from 20 plus touchdowns just any year when it comes to that. I mean, that's a ridiculous jump from last year to this year for Matthew Stafford. So I'm with you. Easily the MVP to me. I know Drake May's had a good year, but this is clear cut in a way the best quarterback in football this year. It's not even close.
Agreed.
But that's going to do it for this first episode of Super Bowl week on the Bold Take podcast. Be on the lookout. Around Thursday, Friday night, our official Super Bowl preview. We'll dive into the matchup, all the picks for the matchup, all the matchups, and of course, Austin. We can't forget our novelty picks, coin toss, Gatorade color. I have already looked at the Gatorade odds. Some are surprising, I'm not going to lie. But we'll dive into those all this week. You do not want to miss our Super Bowl preview. And, of course, who we think is going to win this game. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Bold Take podcast. That's Austin Hill. I'm Austin Wader, and we want to thank you for listening.